What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Coffee and Headphones. My name is Caleb,
My name is Trevor.
and this is a podcast where brothers talk about brother things. We are currently dead set in the middle of the NBA playoffs, which is what we are focusing on today and until the conclusion of the finals. And I think we don't have to waste any time, Trevor. Your team played their first conference finals game last night. Let's get into it. What are your initial thoughts?
Oh, buddy. Okay. First off, I just want to start by saying everyone besides Jay Will and JJ Reddick on ESPN, Sports Center, or any of these other announcers need to be fired. Uh, the most disrespectful headlines I've ever seen in my entire life. The Nuggets destroyed the Lakers. They came back. We'll talk about it. Okay. But they destroyed the Lakers. And we're talking about should the Lakers feel good about losing? Let the Nuggets lose that game and see what that narrative is. It is not going to be that. Um, to talk about a professional sports team that is in the running for a championship, being content on losing is blasphemy. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Um, it just won't stop. In every series, I'm like, okay, this is when the hate will stop. It just continues. You torch the Suns, it continues, right? Everybody's like, oh, he has to make it past KD. He has to make it past Devin Booker. Who knows if he's better than them? Blah, 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 blah. You beat them. Then it's the next thing. Oh, you got to play the Lakers. We'll see if they can win, blah, blah, blah. Destroy the Lakers game one. Oh, well, the Lakers should feel good about losing. So, what? I know we're all into participation trophies now, but that is seriously the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Everyone's always like championships, championships, championships. Okay, cool. That's what they're doing. That's what they're playing for. The knock on Jokic is he's a bad playoff player, better than Embiid, by the way. But he goes 34, 21, and 14, and all we can talk about is how the Lakers should feel good about losing. That's ridiculous. So I have more to
Yeah.
say, but I feel like you want to talk, so I'll let you
Well,
talk.
if this is your first time joining us, as you can tell, Trevor is an avid Lakers fan. Uh, oh man, yeah, that was quite interesting. I had a feeling that you were gonna have some things to say, especially when I saw all the headlines this morning. Even All Reliable, the best non-biased sports podcast out there, No Dunks, Taz Mellis was saying, I think the Lakers walk away feeling really good about themselves. I'm with you, bro. This is the conference finals. This is a legacy on the line here for multiple players, but I don't think LeBron is feeling good about losing. And all of these people who ride his nuts are kind of blowing me away. That is kind of the narrative that they're getting from game one because of some coaching changes that were made. Now, let's be fair here. The Lakers did make good changes. They made adjustments in the game, and in that second half, the third quarter, they really came back. And then it was a much more entertaining game because in the first half, the Nuggets were blowing them out of the water. Um, but these adjustments can also be made by Mike Malone in the next
Mike
game.
Malone, who's a
Let,
wonderful
let's
coach.
let's talk about the specifics here. Mike Malone did make some in-game adjustments, but it just which is why they ended up winning, by the way, because the Nuggets did win. If you didn't know that,
Mm-hmm.
I know if you're on ESPN, maybe you don't know that, but the Nuggets won because of a couple clutch changes. The Lakers, though, they made one in particular change that a lot of people are talking about, which is Rui Hachimura on Jokic. Now, I know that you're gonna feel the same way as me, and I'm just gonna put this in a gentle sense. That is not the answer. It maybe like confused the Nuggets at best last night, and AD was able to roam free. Guess what? Like I just said, Mike Malone can also make changes, and they're gonna
And
find
it's
a way to adjust to this. Ryu Hachimura is gonna get torched if he tries to guard Jokic for a whole
yes,
game.
100%. Jokic took two shots in the fourth quarter and they say it's because Rui played such good defense. He played better defense than AD, which, by the way, is who everyone was saying, oh, AD is going to lock Jokic up, blah, blah, blah. That's the answer. His defense is going to destroy Jokic. Jokic has to get through AD. Now, all of a sudden, it's, oh, AD's one-on-one defense. It wasn't good enough, but his offense was amazing. My man
Right.
had 40 points, okay? That's a
Let's be
great
fair.
game.
AD, yeah,
That's a
AD had
great
a
game.
great game.
Okay, but you're
Definitely.
going to tell me that you are the best defensive player left in the playoffs and you had 10 rebounds.
Right.
Jokic doubled your rebounds plus
Right.
one.
Right.
Nikola Jokic, the guy that everyone said isn't athletic enough to compete with AD on the boards, destroyed you. The Nuggets bench had more rebounds than take Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets bench. They have more rebounds than all of the Lakers combined. Nikola Jokic had more rebounds than LeBron and AD combined by himself. AD is supposed to be this amazing defensive player. That's all I heard before the series started. All I heard from ESPN analysts is it's going to be a tough matchup. AD versus Jokic. AD versus Jokic. AD gets torched last night by Jokic. And let's be fair, okay? Jokic is not a great defender. He's not as bad as people say either. He's ranked number 40. He has the most broken up plays in the league this year, mostly because he kicks his foot out. But hey, that's part of the game. He plays smart.
Right.
You expected AD to get points, but you're going to tell me that now instead of AD being the answer, Rui Hachimura is the answer for Nikola Jokic.
No,
That's a joke.
that's a
That is a
joke.
joke. If
Yeah.
AD, the best defensive player left in the playoffs, can't defend Jokic one on one, what the hell makes you think that Rui Hachimura is going to defend Jokic one on one? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
crazy.
so now that you got your feelings out, can we talk about the historic game that was last night? Jokic out there. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Jokic did some things in the second half that need to be adjusted moving forward. In particular, getting a little bit too cutesy with the passes, and like to your point, he only took 2 shots in the fourth when it was a
Mhm.
single digit game. And like we've been saying this whole time, for the Nuggets to win, Jokic needs to shoot more. He had a great game, but he only took 17 shots. He could have taken like 25 realistically, right? He was making most of them.
70%,
Yeah,
though.
he was making most of them. So like, and they won because Jokic and Murray together, and like
Well,
Bruce Brown,
KCP,
MPJ coming in. Yeah, different
the whole
spurts.
team
That's
played
how
great.
you win. But outside of just those few mistakes with the late turnovers or whatever, it was such a historic game that I read a stat this morning that said it was the first time since 1987 that opposing centers had 30 or more in the conference finals. Isn't that crazy? That's 36 seasons.
That's crazy. But I mean, that's who you would expect it from.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I
So
was
it
thinking. Like,
makes sense.
yeah, like
It,
AD for me, like I was watching and I was like, because AD started off fairly slow, right? And Jokic blocked him in the first half. I texted you, I was like, yo, that got me hyped. But
Jokic
I
had two
was,
blocks. AD had
yeah,
two blocks.
yeah,
Continue.
I was watching, and then slowly but surely, he just kind of kept hitting those middies. And then next thing you know, he ends the game with 40 points. And I was like, when did he get 40 points? And I say this because that's such like a Jokic thing for AD to do. Like
Yeah,
Jokic, you look at his box score at the end, and you're like, when did he get all these numbers? Because he does it, although he's like obviously flashy with his passes and he has cool circus finishes from time to time. He does it so steady. He never feels like he's taking over a game like in the sense that Jimmy or LeBron of old does. And that was AD last night. Now, here's my question for you. Obviously, Darvin Ham better at in-game adjustments than Frank Vogel has been, which you saw last night. Even though they did lose,
mhm.
they were able to come back and make it a competitive game. If you're Darvin Ham, do you start Rui Hachimura or do you start Vanderbilt for
I
defense?
think he's going to start Rui Hachimura. And here's something else I want to say about Anthony Davis's 40-point game. Not to discredit him, but definitely to discredit him. He has the best player over the past 20 seasons on his team that the opposing team is always going to have to account for and worry about. So he is going to be a lot more open, and he should be scoring close to 40 points every freaking game. He should. He should. I mean, that's like, if you're not doing that, you don't deserve to be called one of the best, because you have LeBron James, who is always going to take it's going to take the number one defender to defend LeBron James. That's going to be the primary goal for teams to disrupt, is going to be LeBron James. Okay. You are a center, you're a 7-foot center who's pretty physically dominant, albeit very injury prone, but you're pretty physically dominant against a center that is not a top 5 center in defense. You should score 40 points. Nikola Jokic scoring 34 points on you, 10 to 13 on AD, by the way, as his primary defender. Okay, so think about that. That's close to what? Is that 80 some percent?
It's somewhere around there.
And we're not talking about dunks, we're talking about floaters, bank shots, mid range. He is going to work around Rui Hachimura even more so than Anthony Davis. I don't want to say it was a fluke. I think he did a
No,
great job guarding
yeah.
Jokic,
I
but
think
that's
if
not going to be a
anything,
40-minute guard.
right. I think
There's no way.
it's one of those kind of
End of game.
stunts, right? It's one of those
End of
stunts where
game.
you're like, in the game, what? You don't want
It was
Rui
the
guarding
end of the
Jokic?
game. It was the end of the game. Jokic had already put up a triple double in the first half. Okay. So I'm not making excuses that he was like tired,
Right.
but my man's like 290.
Yeah. Oh, well, I
Not
mean,
the
yeah.
biggest physical specimen.
I think if anything, it was more just like a surprise, and just an unexpected move. It was very Nick Nurse to me. And I like that. And I like Rui Hachimura. I'm glad that he's out of Washington and he has a chance to compete. Um, he's too small for Jokic though. Like, let's be real. At the end of the day, he is. And he's a good defender, but he's not like an all-time, he's not like a Draymond Green undersized defender type person.
He's
He's
like AG
decent. He's like AG kind of, but I don't even think he's on that level
that
yet.
level.
He needs to
No.
develop a little bit more before he can do that. And then Jokic has been the best player in the playoffs. So if you're gonna ask someone who is a good defender but undersized and has been coming off the bench to guard the multiple time MVP and best players so far in the playoffs, I think that's too tall of a task for anyone, let alone someone who had inconsistent minutes throughout the season, especially.
Apparently Jokic. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially with his lack of guarding centers.
Apparently Jokic hasn't been the best player in the playoffs, according to every analyst that gets paid hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to analyze the game of basketball. Which is again why I say they all deserve to be fired. Skip Bayless, Max Kellerman, and Stephen A. Smith are they're like politicians. Okay. They just say stuff to get people to pay attention. They don't know what they're saying. I've seen so much backpedaling and switching of reasoning and all. It's ridiculous. But he has, like, if you look at the stats, if you analyze, which is supposed to be their job, the stats of Nikola Jokic, win percentage, field goal percentage, triple doubles. My man is having not only the best playoff run this year, it is a historic playoff run that's been done by little to nobody. I don't understand the hate, the disrespect. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I think, at this point, at least, the fans and the people who actually understand basketball are understanding how special Jokic has been this postseason and recently. And I've seen a lot of people, especially after the Embiid game 7, say like, yeah, Jokic should have been the 3-time MVP. And that's neither here nor there. But I'm watching the Nuggets with a lot of confidence, knowing that they haven't lost at home and they have
Yeah,
home court throughout the rest of the playoffs.
it's not just Jokic either. The
Right.
team's doing
No,
great.
Jamal last night had another 30 piece that went so under the radar because Jokic and AD in such a great game. But Murray has been playing great, honestly. And to your point, I think you coined it the Murray Flurry at one point. That was what happened last night. He kind of like the Nuggets were falling off a bit. He kind of kept them going there and making sure that it didn't get down to that one possession game. It got really close. I think the closest was what, 5 points. He made sure that there was breathing room the whole time.
I think it
So
was a 3 point game at
3 point
one
was it? Okay.
point. Also, I didn't coin Murray Flurry. I wish I did. That
Okay.
comes from Denver Nuggets altitude TV announcers.
Got you.
But Jamal is severely underrated.
He's bringing his stock back like he does every year in the playoffs.
He's severely underrated. This Nuggets team as a whole is underrated. KCP had 21, I want to say. Bruce
He
Brown
played
just
really
went in there
well.
and destroyed these guys, just pushed the pace.
Yeah,
And I
especially in
think
the
that's what
first
the
half.
Nuggets are going to have to do. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. I don't think that. I think it'll go to 7. And
Yeah,
I think the Nuggets will win at 7.
if last
Um,
night was any indication, this is going to be another great series. The
really
Sun
great
series
series.
was great. I mean, Game 6 was boring, but it was a great series up until that point, and I can see more of the same here. Another series, unless there's anything else you want to say about the Nuggets. The other
Uh,
series, yeah, well, I'm sure you'll say that at the end. The Eastern Conference Finals kicks off tonight.
tonight.
I'm so excited. I'm going down to the pub to watch with my buddy who's a Celtics fan, so that'll be very fun. Do you have any predictions for this one?
I am so stoked to see Jimmy Butler play basketball.
Yeah,
That's all I'm gonna say. I have obviously been a little consumed as a Nuggets fan in this series. But Jason Tatum is gonna play wonderful. Um,
shout out to
Jalen
Tatum
Brown's
for that crazy Game 7. By the way, respect
absolutely.
where it's due.
I still think the Celtics are gonna lose the series. Um, they're almost there, but they're not. I mean, you gotta if you look at the team versus team, the Celtics should win this series for sure, right? Like it's Tyler Hero has broken hands, so you got Jimmy Bam who plays sometimes, Gabe Vincent who's good this year, but let's be honest, who heard of Gabe Vincent before this year? Not many people. You have Max Struess, and then what is the bench in Miami? Kyle
Lowry,
Lowry.
yeah, yeah, Lowry, Caleb Martin are your real bench pieces right now.
And
Duncan Robinson is starting now. Kevin Love is starting now.
Kevin Love's playing great. Kevin Love's playing
I mean,
really good basketball.
Bam had a great series last series. He started off
Yes.
the playoffs a little slow, but he really showed up against the Knicks, and that was a very tough series. And I think that was a positive sign if you're a Heat fan. Jimmy is farther removed from his injury since the Celtics series went 7, which is really good if you're a Heat fan as well. Now, this is the only guy who's really in contention with Jokic for best player in the playoffs. And I think, as much of a Jimmy stan as I am, I think Jokic has clearly been a bit better. But I think, like Jimmy said after last year's series where he missed that last shot to beat the Celtics in the conference finals, that
Yep.
he's learned from his mistake. So if you're the Celtics, I would be a little scared because rookie coach who has made mistakes throughout these playoffs, and the Celtics beat themselves a lot more than the Heat beat themselves. And Jimmy is even better than he was in last year's playoffs. I see this one going 7, of course. Like this has been such a great playoff run all across the board, and a lot of these series are going long. This might be the best one yet. Let's be honest. Jimmy and Tatum is going to be a great matchup, but I'm going to go with like Heat and 7, of course, because I got to ride with Jimmy. And like
I
I
get it.
said a few weeks ago, I would love a Heat Nuggets finals, and it looks like we're inching there. But takeaways for tonight for me is going to be how does Jimmy's ankle look?
Mm-hmm.
And are the other Heat players making their threes? Because they
Yeah.
almost all of these role players shot a career low from 3 this season. And then they've been better in the playoffs, but not always there, especially like the Struess and the Kyle Lowry and those people. Kevin Love even had some clankers in there. That's one point. And then the point on the Celtics side is Robert Williams, who I was like, hey, he needs to be getting more minutes. He started the last 2 games of the last series, and they won both of those. So I feel like I could be a good NBA coach. How's he going to fare against Bam? because
Yeah.
last year they kind of canceled each other out, at least on the defensive end. But he's been more inconsistent in the rotation, obviously. And so I want to see how Robert Williams plays. And then also, how does Derek White play coming off the bench? Because it was a lot of the same thing with last year's playoffs, where he started off great shooting. And then as the time went by, he became worse and worse. And then eventually was getting like spot minutes in the finals. So those are my two takeaways for the Celtics and for the Heat.
Yeah. And I don't even want to put it this way, but this is just how it seems. And obviously, you don't know. Obviously, everybody wants to win. Like, they've been competitors probably since like 2 years old, right? Like, I get that side of things, but there are two guys still left in the playoffs that I think straight up just want it more. They would die to have a championship. And that's Jimmy and Nikola Jokic. They've been business, all playoffs, all season, really. And I just I see Jason Tatum and he has these amazing games. My man is a great player. I can't stand the Celtics. So it hurts me to say that, but it's a fact, right? I'm not gonna say he's not a great player.
Right.
But you give me Jimmy versus Tatum one-on-one. I don't care if Tatum has a 70-point game. I'm gonna pick Jimmy every time. So I think it is going to come down to the role players. Like Marcus Smart is very streaky. If he has a great game and the Heat guards aren't hitting threes, that's going to be a big deciding factor because talent wise, strictly like athleticism and talent, the Celtics have the upper hand.
Absolutely.
Coaching wise, the Heat had the upper hand
Yeah.
for
Coaching
sure.
wise, they have the best coach
And they
in
they
this in the
play
playoffs.
they play with a certain continuity that you would think the Celtics would play with because most of those guys have been together for a long time that the Celtics just don't play with some games. So I think it'll be a fun series. I think it'll be close. Um, Unbiased opinion, I do think the Heat are going to win. Biased opinion, the Heat in four. But that's my takeaway from that. So
Yeah.
I
I mean,
hoping for a Heat Nugget final.
yeah, it'll be a great series either way. I'm hoping for a different result from last year, and I also want to pull out some receipts from when Jimmy signed in 2019 with the Heat. You
Mm-hmm.
had Stephen A. Smith, amongst many other people, saying they'll be lucky if they make it to the playoffs. Jimmy must not care about winning. He only wants to go to the beach. He wants to enjoy the warm weather. They don't have the team to compete like he had in Philly. He doesn't care about his legacy. He's ruining his legacy. How many times in the last 4 years have the Philadelphia 76ers been to the conference finals?
Zero.
Yes. And how many times have the Heat been?
Twice?
Three
Three
times.
times.
Three times. Once
Wow.
going to the finals, and now maybe again going back to the finals. So uh, it goes to prove that if you work hard, that beats talent any day, which is why I could see the Heat beating the Celtics here because the Celtics, top to bottom, they're clearly more talented. They have two All NBA level players. The Heat have maybe one and a half. It depends on if Bam is being super assertive or not.
And they have a six man that was 50, 40, 90 a couple of seasons ago
Yeah.
that is really, really good at basketball. That chose to go to a team to try to win a championship. But if he was on another team, he would be starting.
Yeah.
And we would be talking about him like we do, like De'Aaron Fox or somebody on that level.
I don't know about that, but here's another thing. You know, the Miami Heat, outside of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, have and KCP, they have all of the players who have won a championship. The Celtics don't
Yeah.
have any championships on their roster right now. The Heat have Udonis Haslem, of course. Uh,
Oh, yes.
the Heat have
Kevin
Kyle
Love.
Lowry and Kevin Love.
Kyle Lowry. Yeah.
Yeah. And Cody Zeller, who hasn't won a championship, but he's a champion in my heart.
I was like, wait, when did Cody Zeller win? Listen, Cody Zeller, man. Hey,
Uh,
props to him. He's doing his thing.
Sticking around. He's actually
He's doing
playing
what they
really good.
got him to do.
Yeah.
And he is playing good, man. His brother's better than him, but somehow he's the one in the league. I don't know.
He's nicer.
I Yeah, I don't know, dude. I hope it's a Heat Nugget final. The script says Celtics Lakers. I'd be distraught if that happened because I really can't stand the Lakers and I really can't stand the Celtics either. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I'm just a hater. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. The Lakers Celtics thing is when was the last time that that rivalry was truly great?
I don't know about truly great per se, but the last time that they were in the finals was 2010, Kobe's last championship.
So we're 13 years removed
Yeah.
from the last time those two teams were in the finals.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah, and the Nuggets have a chance to break that streak of being the longest
the
tenured,
curse,
yeah, longest tenured professional team who has not won a championship
the
while being in the
curse.
playoffs. So that would be cool. But yeah, I think we should move on to the final topic here, and that is the draft lottery was last night. Did you get a
Mm-hmm.
chance to catch it?
I saw Spurs first,
Yeah.
Rockets third. Who was
No,
second?
Blazers third,
Blazers third, Rockets second,
Hornets second, Rockets fourth.
Hornets.
Yeah, the Pistons dropped to five. So Spurs have a chance to get another generational big man. And as skeptical as I am about Wembanyama, I think
Mhm.
there's honestly no better place for him to be than San Antonio.
I agree. I agree. That's basically word for word what I was going to say. I am very skeptical. I feel the same way about him that I felt about Chet, and we see how that's gone. Um, and people hated on me for hating on Chet, but I mean, you're tall, you're lanky, you're playing in a men's league, and people say like, "Oh, European basketball is tougher." Yes, it is, but not the French league. I'm
Here's
sorry, it's
here's
not.
here's my thing. Do they not see Zion Williamson, Kate Cunningham, uh, Derrick Rose going back? These other builds, these athletic guards and these big dudes are also getting injured. Like it's not just the lanky people,
Yeah, you're
you
right.
know?
And it really, I want him to be healthy, and I want him to take over league. I think it'd be
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah,
And but the last unicorn we had was probably Porzingis, right?
yeah. I'd say so.
That
Who had a
was the
good
last
year
one
last year?
I remember hearing
Yeah,
people call a unicorn. And he's had good years,
yeah.
but he hadn't been like a consistent
He hasn't been
top
like
of the
a franchise star.
all-star
Yeah,
franchise player. No,
yeah.
not even close.
No, he's a
And
solid career, one-time All-Star, but not a franchise guy.
so many things have to go exactly right for Wemby to be what everybody wants him to be. And I think he does have the best chance of that happening in San Antonio. But there's just so many ifs and buts and maybes. Like the last time this happened and it worked out was one of the best players of all time is LeBron, right? The last time it
What are
really
you
worked out,
talking about?
like
I
having a
thought you were going to Tim Duncan.
no having somebody with this much hype coming into the
Oh,
league
yeah, because it hasn't worked out for Lonzo or Zion or the other
or
dudes
any
that
of
were on
those
that level.
Pistons players
Yeah, yeah.
or the
Uh,
Sixers players. It
yeah,
didn't work out for any of them,
yeah,
man.
no,
So
Markel, man. So here's one more question because we're running out of time because your Nuggets rant was so long. What do you think the Blazers do here? They have the third pick. They have an aging Damian Lillard, and they've missed out on the playoffs 3 years in a row. Where do you see them moving? Like, do you think that they're trading this pick? Do you think that they're rebuilding and trading Dame? What's the move here?
the Blazers are tough for me. Obviously, as a Nuggets fan, and like the past few years, like usually we see them in the playoffs, and it's a rivalry. I have a newfound respect for Damian Lillard, though. I've always known he was really good, but watching him this year, I really respect how he plays and the fact that he wants to stay in Portland. But I need to know why.
Yeah. Well, this is the
Nothing.
first time he's saying like maybe, maybe not.
It's past time, and I get you want to be um a one team player. Like you want to be that guy that's been there for forever, like Steph, like probably like Jokic, like people like that. But also you gotta want to win a championship. I know you do. You're not in the league this long just because you like dribbling a ball up and down. Like you want to win a championship.
Of course.
But the Blazers, I don't know much about their front office. From what I know, they try to make moves. Like you got to think they got
Yeah,
Nurkic, who was the starter in Denver before Jokic,
they've
and
had Nurkic for so
they
long though.
they thought that was going to work out great. But that's the
Yeah,
thing; they make these moves that are supposed to work out, but then they just sit on it. They don't take action quick enough.
yeah,
So I don't know what's going to happen in Portland,
yeah.
man.
No,
I
that's
really,
a great point. Like realistically,
like CJ.
if they were going to trade Dame and Tank, they should have done it last year when they had a chance to get Wemby. You know, there's not that generational potential in the next draft that at least has been talked about in the same way. But they always seem to be a little late to the pitch. To your point, like with trading CJ, they traded him away for a bag of beans, man. Like they trade these mid first round picks for years and years, and then they decided like, maybe let's take a different approach. Dame was injured for a little bit, and they're like, hey, maybe we can just shut him down, and then they end up with like the ninth pick and the eighth pick, and that's not helping your generational talent win.
No, but they
Uh,
have some young players that are good. I think it's time to rebuild.
they have one young player that's really good, and then they have
Shaden
some
Sharp.
solid. He's solid, but they have Anthony Simons is really good. Shaden Sharp is solid. Nazir Little solid. Um, but I don't know, man. Like, what is even the return for Dame now? You know,
They
it's not as
it's
high
the
as it
same
could
thing
have
with
been.
CJ. Like they missed their target window
Yeah,
of sell high.
yeah.
So now the market value for Dame is lower, but Dame's still Dame. Any team will be happy to have him.
He
It's
can
just
come to Chicago.
what are they going to give up to get him?
We'll give y'all DeMar DeRozan.
And that's the thing. Like at this point in time, most of the trades, if it's a trade and it's not like all about picks and rebuilding, it's going to be a wash. Like
Yeah, you can't trade dollar for dollar.
Demar for Lillard is a wash.
Yeah,
Lillard's a little bit better. Let's be honest. At this point, he is. He is.
yeah, yeah. And
Um,
a lot of teams don't have the draft asset anymore. Like there's a couple of teams that have been hoarding them, namely the
there's
Thunder.
teams that hold like
Yeah,
10 first round picks. You know, it's like it's crazy, and they're just banking all of their money on. So I don't know. I think it would have been cool to see Wemby in Charlotte. I know I'm going
yeah,
off
definitely.
topic, but Blazers on three. I I'm gonna be honest. I don't really know who's up for grabs this
It's
draft.
Wimby and Scoot are the two that I know of.
I,
I've heard
Scoot,
some other names thrown around recently, but
Scoot.
those are the two that seem to be like straight away impactful.
I think
Three,
Scoot's gonna be great.
Scoot and LaMelo has potential to be great or bad. We'll see. Let's see. Assuming Charlotte does draft him at two, but yeah, man, it's a wait and see. Of course, the Bulls lost out on their pick because it did not end up in the top four, but it is what it is. At least now all the moving parts of the Boots trade is done with. That's all I have to say. But we're out of time. So I
Okay.
guess maybe next week we can come back and do some Damian Lillard mock trades and see how the playoffs are. But thank you so much for joining us today. As always, we will continue to update you until the finals are over, and then we will switch to the topics outside of basketball. So let us know what you want us to talk about whenever the time comes. Trevor, is there anything that you'd like to say to the people?
Yes, there is. Go
Go
Nuggets.
Nuggets. Agreed. Okay. Well, as always, peace, love, and pixie dust.